Welcome back to Whence Came You, a Freemasonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. I'm your host, Robert Johnson, a York Rite Mason and Knight Templar. This week, I got an email from a brother who couldn't access the blog that I refer to sometimes on the show called The 1 Minute Mason. Well, that's because it's by invite only. It's for the Missouri Lodge of Research, primarily. However, Brother Steve Harrison, who writes that blog, informed me that if you like the Missouri Lodge of Research page on Facebook, you'll get to see those posts that he makes about 3 to 4 days after he puts them out. So I'll add a link to that on the website soon, so you can all jump right on over. Also, be sure to check out the Midnight Freemasons if you haven't in a while. There's another piece that I wrote on the Jefferson Bible, and even more exciting is an edition of a new contributor, brother and past master Michael Shirley. So make sure you go and check back for some great new pieces on the Midnight Freemasons. I wanted to share a few short blog posts by some of the Freemason blogs and sites out there. The first thing I have for you is a quick blurb from the 1 Minute Mason. Brother Steve Harrison has provided a good piece and a quick laugh as well for Sunday, May 13th, 2012, entitled Panty Raid. A Grand Lodge of California account from the mid-1960s describes a crime in which a brother had been convicted of the theft of clothing, including 181 pairs of women's undergarments. The official police report described the incident as a panty raid, stemming from the popular and self-explanatory hijinks occurring on college campuses at the time. The brother came up on Masonic charges. In order to distinguish his serious crime from the youthful indiscretion, the Grand Lodge of California proceedings for that year included the following, quote, "We do not wish to be misunderstood as overemphasizing the gravity of that specification against the accused in which he is charged with a panty raid. Indulgence in such conduct by boys of college age for the purpose of displaying either skill or courage, if that be the purpose, differs from the conduct of the accused here, in that the theft of 181 pairs of ladies' pants is not merely a playful prank." Unquote. Next is from another blog called The Metaphysical Freemason. Truth is the most powerful of all. No claim to it is made here. Thoughtful and intuitive scrutiny is, however, encouraged. For Thursday, May 10th, 2012, even Aaron's beard. What makes happy this esoterically inclined Mason about fellowship with his brothers? We know that we are to chip away the ashlar, removing vice and superfluity. If that were the case, Masons would look more akin to Spartans and the like. Freemasons have no problem with buy-in. We take ownership of our lodge and of our society of friends and brothers. The hardest work of the path is that of self-discipline. When I look at my brothers, I believe I am looking in the mirror. I see myself. That's how strong the tie is. We are at different points in our Masonic lives. The joy of the Corsair losing chaos with strong drink, or of the Pythagorean considering the discipline of the mysteries and the science, or of the poet conversing over a tumbler. And when I am standing in the midst of keen-minded men of goodwill and disciplined in mind, body, and spirit, is best for me. Next is one by Just a Mason, This and That from a Freemason, dated Friday the 24th, February 2012. Osmosis doesn't work. And the Millennial Freemason has posted his musings on what probably been an unexplored topic, how the lifestyle of Generation Y is different, and how that will affect Masonic membership. Nick quotes an expert whose opinion is, "Wires are living with mom and dad longer than we geezers did. I left home at 18, getting married later, and settling down later." And you can read that at another address. However, while Nick's post muses about the future, he's avoided an issue about the here and now for lodges, probably because it doesn't really involve the types of people he's dealing with. But it's something I'm seeing more and more in lodges, and nobody seems to grasp as a problem, let alone bring up a solution. There are more and more lodges today where the old stalwarts have passed away. Members of the generation after them rarely joined a lodge. That means a small core of men under 40, even younger in some places, has been left behind to try to keep the lodge going by filling all the offices necessary to ensure its proper operation. And they're fighting a losing battle through no fault of their own. Far too often, for the health of a lodge, young men who have assumed the mantle of office drop it on the ground in despair and disappear. It's because their lives haven't settled yet. I've lost track of the number of Masons under 40, entered apprentices, even who suddenly change jobs, move away, decide to get married or have a child, and then realize it means they have less or no time for their lodge. And none of this was expected when they signed their name on the application to become a member. Consequently, lodges are forced to somehow fill several holes in their officer corps year after year. Band-aids are stuck in place, and everyone seems to think that it'll take care of things for 12 months. But a doctor doesn't just put a Band-aid on a patient. There's treatment too, and Masonic lodges don't bother with the treatment. The problem is the "it's always been done that way" syndrome. Years and years ago, officers learned the ropes by going through all the chairs, getting experience while watching the officers ahead of them so they knew what they'd have to do next year. But officers don't go through all the chairs today, and they haven't for an awful long time. And instead of taking into account the reality that officers are being fast-tracked and have to pick up knowledge about lodge operations faster than their predecessors, lodges are content with the old easygoing watch-and-learn method of the 1920s because it's always been done that way, and it doesn't involve a bit of effort on the lodge's part. The duty is on the member to learn through osmosis. Osmosis isn't working anymore, and judging by the number of confused "what do I do now" masters I've seen, shockingly, some are even recycled past masters. It hasn't worked for some time. Lodges have to accept the fact that officers jump chairs, a lot of them. That means they have to prepare officers for that eventuality and to be able to serve in any office. If your Grand Lodge has come up with an officer training program, use it. Adapt it for your lodge, as all lodges have their own quirks about how they do things. Don't let an officer learn about a lodge custom for the first time when a past master snaps at him for not knowing our lodge does it this way. If you haven't got a program, masters should get the guys together and develop one, then fine-tune it. And above all, train your junior officers in the duties of all the chairs. Spread it over several sessions and reinforce what they've been told before. You and they will never know when they have to jump past some office because of a couple holes that have unexpectedly developed. Masonry involves labor. It doesn't involve just sitting around and hoping things will work out. Proactive lodges are the ones who develop a string of successful leaders, and a string of successful leaders means a successful lodge. And again, those are just a few of the cool posts that I had read and thought you all might find interesting as well.
Freemason conspiracies.
Well, this is another one that I came across, and it goes a little something like this. SETI, the government organization in a search for extraterrestrial intelligence, is Masonically named after an Egyptian pharaoh. CC, like the alien crop circles, and the CCs on the moon encode Masonic 33. Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey came out of 33 years prior in 1968. In 1947, the Area 51/Roswell UFO allegedly landed at 33.33 degrees north latitude, the number, and 104 degrees longitude. Interestingly, 104 is 33.33 multiplied by pi, 3.14159, and 33.33 degrees latitude is exactly 2,012 miles from the equator. Thus, 2012 and Masonic 33 have been numerically encoded into the alien hoax since the beginning. Also in 1947, the U.S. government created the CIA and the NSA. As Jordan Maxwell has pointed out, the terms NSA and NASA come from NASI, or Nazi, the German secret society creation whose UFO experimenting rocket scientists were imported via the OSS or CIA during Project Paperclip just 1 year earlier in 1946. Also in 1947 was the Rothschilds' Balfour Declaration and all of the Nazi Jews entering Israel. This is the same Israel that has seen much UFO activity and is in the Bible, where we see the Anunnaki. Anunnaki also can be pronounced Ashkenazi or Nazi, or Nasi, then NASA, and then NSA. What does it all mean? I can't stress to you how ridiculous it is to even try to read this. Anyway, these just keep getting better each week, and by better I mean more insane. The next thing I want to share with you is a paper. Now this paper will be the first half this week, and we will finish it up next week. It's a lengthy piece. So without further ado, Masonic Education, an address given by Brother J. A. Evans, M.D., Past Master, P.Z., before the Toronto Society for Masonic Study and Research, September 20th, 1930. Progress is a necessary result of natural law. It has been well said that he who stands still goes backward, and this saying long antedates Einstein and his law of relativity. However, it is true in a relative sense, only for it can quite easily be imagined that under some circumstances to stand still would be to advance relatively, provided that all of the others fell back. In the main, the statement remains unaltered and can be accepted. However, in accepting it, there is a danger that must be kept in mind. Progress means to go forward, and while it is generally understood that this forward movement is towards a goal that will bring beneficial results upon its attainment, nevertheless circumstances may prove later that the results are distinctly disastrous. Movement is not always progress in the general acceptance of the term. Progress, like efficiency, has become an obsession of the present age. The world flatters itself that it has improved greatly over the past generations and gives numerous undebatable examples to prove the contention. It may be true. It undoubtedly is true in some cases, but it may not be in all. In this connection, we know that every well-managed business concern at stated periods, usually once a year, stops its operations for a brief period to do a little inward searching. This process is called stock-taking, and it would prove of inestimable value if every person, institution, and even the world itself, if such were possible, were to take stock. The craft is no exception. Freemasonry of today is not exactly what it was 2 centuries ago. This no person can deny. Has the change been a true advantage, or has it been a retrograde movement? Masonry should take stock and make an honest attempt to answer this question fairly and frankly, and then be guided accordingly. But before this Herculean task can be undertaken, there are certain factors and conditions that must be given due consideration. There is evident in all quarters a psychology, a ruling psychology. One could actually say of the effervescent political type. Catchwords and expressions become slogans and such direct men's actions, while at the same time meaning nothing, or worse still, being capable of interpretations of meanings within wide limits. The world today is dealing largely with the superfluities and unimportant details. Man in general has neither the time nor the inclination to dig beneath the surface and unearth the basic laws. So if this stock-taking in masonry is to take place, who is going to do it? In other words, what are the qualifications necessary in those who are to undertake it? Efficiency experts can be dismissed before even entertaining their application for the job. No man can gain an adequate knowledge of any business unless he has spent years of patient study and consideration of the basic principles and details of that business. Efficiency experts will energize anything from farming to high finance, from preaching to bootlegging, all by the same rule of thumb. Then we have the specialists. These are the men who by dint of application have obtained a more intimate knowledge of details than is possible to a man of a wider experience. Moreover, this increased knowledge is gained, not infrequently, at the expense of the perspective. Specialists are useful, but by the virtue of their very training, they must not be permitted to lead. Their activities must be directed and controlled by a governing hand. Specialism is rife today. We have specialists for this and specialists for that. Specialists who were unknown a decade ago, and specialists who will be unknown when science changes the diurnal habits of the human race. We have specialists in name and specialists in fact. Specialists who have graduated from their own school, and those who have graduated from the schools of other specialists. And so the dance of specialization goes merely on, and the world at large signs of the dotted line and pays. Specialism is the direct result of the superficial mental attitude of the day, or is it a cause? Unbridled specialization is a curse, though it may prove of untold value when properly directed. So let us beware how we handle the specialists whom we engage to assist in the study, and not let them get out of control. Specialists are like fire, good servants, but poor masters. And of course, next week we will conclude that paper in its second and final installment. This week's famous Freemason is actually a bunch, the Ringling brothers, the sons of German-born harness maker August Rungling The Ringling Brothers founded the Ringling Brothers Circus in 1884, conceived by Albert and headed by John August T., had little involvement in the circus. They were all members of Baraboo Lodge No. 34 in Baraboo, Wisconsin. The minutes of a special meeting on April 8, 1891 show the regular officers opening the lodge, then the following taking their chairs: Worshipful Master, Aft T. Ringling, Senior Warden, August, Junior Warden, Al, Senior Deacon, Charles, Junior Deacon, Otto, Senior Steward, Henry. Their father, who died in 1898, was raised in 1891. Albert T., 1861 to 1919, raised on January 22, 1890. John Nicholas, 1866 to 1936, raised March 1, 1890. Albert Charles, 1852 to 1916, raised March 29, 1890. Charles Edward, 1866 to 1926, raised April 9, 1890. William H. Otto, 1858 to 1911, raised April 9, 1890. August George, 1854 to 1907, raised February 4, 1891. Henry William George, 1868 to 1918, raised March 18, 1891. And we'll end this week with a joke. As a man was standing at the gallows, his executioner asked if he had any last words. Yes, the man replied, I hate Masons. The executioner was surprised by this and asked, why do you hate Masons? They do so much good in our world. The condemned man said, not hiding his anger, they are killing me. The man who turned me in is a Mason. The cop that arrested me is a Mason. The prosecuting attorney that tried me is a Mason. The jury that convicted me were all Masons. The judge that sentenced me to hang is a Mason. That is why I hate Masons. I see, said the executioner. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, said the man, with sadness in his voice. Okay then, you will advance one regular step with the left foot. That's it for this week. Remember to like the show on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Whence. Add us to your circle on Google+, and email us at the address wcypodcast@gmail.com. We also have YouTube and Vimeo channels, and most recently, we're on Pinterest as well. Check out our website at wcypodcast.blogspot.com, where you can listen to the show and find links to everything, including our Android and Apple app, which lets you listen to the show streaming rather than syncing. In addition, you'll have access to bonus content. Make sure to check out the Midnight Freemasons via the link on our site, and until next week, for Whence, I'm Robert Johnson.